NBC is here.
Good morning, NBC.
Okay.
And we do have a quorum, John.
Great. In that case, it's 9 o'clock. I will call the Enhanced 911 Commission meeting to order via Teams. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to get back together. I know we're close. We are recording this meeting. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes of the commission meeting of January 6th, 2023, which were sent around with the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Bob Guthrie, I'll approve the minutes.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second? Somebody needs to turn their mic on.
John Benedetto will second.
Thank you, John. Are there any amendments or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any
Aye.
abstentions or votes to the contrary?
John, it's Robert Grauer here. I'm going to abstain just because I was a member last month.
Okay, thank you. Moving ahead, we have the first opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak under public comment? There'll be another opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. So with that, we'll move on to the first update, which is DSET project update.
Good morning.
Morning.
Everybody hear me? Okay, thank you. My name is Stanley Dombrowski. I'm the State of Connecticut Emergency Telecommunications Manager. I support the Director, Clayton Northgraves, who manages the overall statewide emergency telecommunications organization and NG911 program. I provide oversight and vendor management regarding a variety of systems, processes, and deployments. I serve as team technical resource and focal point regarding specific and intended use of current systems and future enhancements. I provide next level of support to State of Connecticut PSAPs and work groups as required for any questions, concerns, or points of clarity. I'd like to start with the first item, the Adder KVM. It's a pilot project from the company Adder that will consolidate PSAP desktop space. This AT&T supported upgrade offers the capability to use a single keyboard and mouse to control multiple NG911 screens. Recently, it was brought to my attention that the time spent to determine which device controls which screen is significant, and it adds unnecessarily to the call answer times. At this time, there are 2 pilot PSAPs scheduled for implementation this April 31st. This is an optional PSAP-funded upgrade. Any questions, comments? Next one I have is Rapid SOS. The State of Connecticut BITS team is evaluating the AT&T network security proposal for use in deployment. This caller location enhancement feature will overlay with the existing Mapplex application used today and provide location clarity to as close as 10 meters. This enhancement can be especially helpful when a caller finds themselves needing help anywhere in the state, including remote locations, and moving vehicles, and when a caller cannot speak or say where they are. The hope is to save time when locating someone by using near exact handset location information while retaining supplemental address location information on the Power 911 screen when the caller is at a specific street address. Training will be by an AT&T technician at each PSAP at the time of installation for this statewide deployment.
Stanley, could you just do a comparison for other people on the increase in accuracy compared to the existing?
I'd be happy to. The current MapFlex screen has a circle of, if you want to say clarity, I believe up to 100 meters away from where the caller might be, always, seemingly always requiring a dispatcher to talk to the person. Where are you? If you don't know where you are, what do you see? How could you help us find you? This enhancement will add a smaller circle of clarity to within 10 meters of where the handset is located. If the call, it'll be a supplemental, if you will, circle of clarity that the dispatcher can highlight and focus in on that may be different from where the original MapFlex location was presented. From what I understand, this is a life-saving, if you want to say, upgrade that will help locate people wherever they are, anywhere they are in the state. For instance, on a trail, anywhere off-site, and mostly from any specific address, such as a house or any fixed location.
Oh, I would have done a preface.
Sorry, I'm not, I just want to remind everybody to mute themselves. And Stan, it's Clayton. I threw up a screenshot from a presentation that I did a couple of weeks ago, so people can kind of see what it's going to look like on MapFlex.
I appreciate it. So in this particular case, the additional circle of reference is within our larger circle. It's a tiny circle to the lower left. That, when expanded by the dispatcher, will show exactly where the person is to the handset location, no matter how close it was to the original alley defined, if you will, query.
Thank you. I just wanted people to kind of get an understanding of the increase in accuracy, which is life-saving.
Looking forward to it, John. I think it'll be significant enhancement statewide to what the dispatchers see, use, and for the caller to get help as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt and continue with your report.
I appreciate it. Interstate interoperability is my next line item. Talks are ongoing with AT&T and some border states and their ESINet vendors for next steps in deployment. Our goal is to attend these talks and meetings to ensure the process continues to move ahead. Recently, we were told that AT&T is ready to test with at least one state's interoperability vendor. Not all border states have vendors and equipment that are yet capable of direct ESINet connectivity and will still rely on human manual transfers to get the caller to the correct PSAP. Each state ESINet vendor will have to be reviewed for compatibility on a state-by-state basis. This one, you know, it's taken a little longer than we had hoped. I think it's another time-saving enhancement. When it does happen, basically, there will be no need for someone to answer the call and spend the time asking questions and where they are and where they need the help. So it's another one we're looking forward to, hopefully soon. Questions, please? Next one I have is NG911 laptops. The laptop recording function has been installed and tested. Refresher training is scheduled for 4/28. Deployment and use to be handled by the DSET radio team and field engineers as required. So we're looking forward to getting these back for use, testing them out in the field and seeing that they can make something better when in fact their original location, dispatcher, telecommunicators' original location is not available for them. There's nothing else. I have one more to report on, the Rapid Deploy Eclipse reporting system. Additional PSAP testing and training has been suspended, pending additional system evaluation. We will use our 2 current pilot sites to understand the way the system interprets its input from the Intrado Viper call handling solution and ultimately as a viable MIS reporting replacement. Currently, we continue to believe that given AT&T and Rapid Deploy Eclipse enough time to deliver their best versions of the product is in all our best interests. With that, that's all the updates I have. Once again, I'll take any question. If not, John, that is it for me.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, we can move on to land mobile radio.
John, the engineer that's giving that presentation is running late. So
Okay.
if okay, could we skip to the Network Control Center?
Sure. Network Control Center.
Hello, good morning. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Julie Gatson. I am the Network Control Center Operations Manager with Adesta. We have actually been here serving the state of Connecticut for almost 30 years. I myself have been here for 26. We're excited about the incorporation now of the DSET help desk to help serve the PSAPs throughout the state. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my camera off and share my screen, give a little presentation here. If you guys can just let me know once you see the screen.
We got
I
it.
can see it. Yep.
And so just a little bit about who we are. We are staffed by Adesta 24/7, 365 with a minimum of 2 people per shift. We usually have 3 to 4 people on during the day to help with the highest volume of calls. We keep administrative support on staff 24/7. We have 12 team members, not including myself, so I'm lucky number 13 that help run the whole center. In addition to the call taking that we are now doing for DSET for the PSAPs regarding 911 issues, we also monitor and maintain the redundant power systems. So the 911 and PSDN UPSs that are out at the facilities. Our team of field technicians, we have a team of 6 for the field that go out and monitor, maintain those, swap out the batteries when it's time. They come out once a year and just do a full maintenance on site. We have actual remote ability to all that equipment so that we can keep an eye on it, so we know where the run times are. Many of you have probably heard us call you if maybe something got plugged in to the consoles that affect the 911 UPS, or if we've seen alarms, we might ask you to just go take a look at the temperature in the equipment room to make sure it's not a HVAC issue. In addition, we are also, what we've been doing for the meat of our contract with the state is we monitor and maintain the transport for the CLMRN network. We do help desk services for them. We monitor all the trunk system. So we provide a lot of services to the state, and we're very happy to be here and like I said, be able to serve the PSAPs. That was just a little picture of our operation there. So we did celebrate Wednesday when we did the kickoff. We were all very excited. We initially did our first kickoff of expansion services on the 4th of January, where we included 18 pilot sites. So a big thank you to all those who participated in that. We also sent out a survey in March just to kind of get an idea of how we're doing, things that we could improve upon. So again, thank you for those of you that participated with that survey. We really appreciate that feedback. So Wednesday was the official incorporation to all the PSAPs. Many of you may know this. We have been doing the 12 troops for probably 20 plus years. We've been doing all these services for them, handling all their phone systems and stuff. So this was just kind of it seemed like a win-win to just add into the extend to the PSAPs themselves. So again, we always want to stay on top of how we're doing, what our performance is. So we'll be sending out a survey to the PSAP contacts in approximately July, just to again get a feel for how we're doing, what we can improve upon. Wanted to give everybody a little bit of details on things that would be useful when you are calling and reporting troubles to the NCC. Again, our goal is to get you off the phone quickly. That's why we're doing this, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time on the phone with the AT&T Res Center. I know a lot of times they'll have wait times, holds, etc. So this is a list of the information that we're looking for. Most of it's pretty basic: who's calling, where they're calling from, the number they're to contact them, and the specifics to the detail. You'll do notice that we have listed there the PSAP, AT&T pseudo circuit numbers. That is not anything that's critical for you guys to provide us. We have a master list, so I just want, people to know that that's not urgent. If for some reason you do really want that number for yourself, you can email us. I have a contact page on the end of this, and we'll send you your circuit number. But again, the NCC has this full master list. AT&T Res Center does regularly request that when we report the troubles to them. So that's why we figured it was easier for us to have the master. And some of the things that we're going to want to know is, is it an individual call issue? Can you give us specifics? Is it an issue where you need a reroute so we can initiate that reroute for you? And if so, where's your alternate PSAP? Again, we do have information from DSET on the primary matrices on where your primary reroute choice is, et cetera, what Viper you're on, all of those things to help us be able to identify issues quicker, especially if we're getting multiple calls from multiple PSAPs, hoping to be able to pick that up, any trends before maybe AT&T would do that. Here's just some information about the tickets that we've received since we've opened up the DSET help desk. You'll see, I know this is a little hard to read, and hopefully we can get this sent out to you guys, a copy of the slide deck too. So for anyone who wants to drill in a little bit further, majority of the tickets are coming in from the larger call centers, which makes perfect sense. And believe it or not, while this looks like there's a lot of this had to do with maintenance. The next slide, I have a breakout of the type of calls that we have. So you can see of all, we had 140 tickets during that time period, and of that 140 tickets, 62 of them related to maintenance. That was one of the things that came back during the survey, was people wanted to kind of be more aware of maintenance that was going to go on. We know that there's been some questions and concerns about security at the PSAPs, of people just showing up. So Clayton and I talked and very proactively reached out to AT&T and said, can you please involve NCC in this process so that we can call ahead to the PSAPs and alert you guys to when somebody's going to be coming to your facility to do work on your 911 system, just for security purposes and peace of mind for you guys. So again, you can kind of take a look. We've got maintenance. There was 2 tickets for non-AT&T maintenance, server work, NG 911 other. Those are ones that just don't quite qualify into recorders or anti-alley or application issues, hardware issues. So we try to break these down into different categories of the type of failures that we're having, so that DSET has all this information and can coordinate best with AT&T regarding any future improvements that might need to be made within the system. Here's some of the information that we had from our survey. The first one is just kind of how people might have interacted with the NCC, whether it was through the help desk for 911 related issue, or through 911 related issues, AT&T maintenance, 911 power, or other reasons. A lot of those others would have related to, say, CLMRN, because we know a lot of the PSAPs are also CLMRN partners. But you can see the majority of it has been related to maintenance, which coincides with how our ticket processing is. We asked what type of notifications would be useful. And as you can see, the vast majority of them really are interested in getting notifications for all 911 related issues at your PSAP. And so we're working with Clayton and Everbridge to come up with some notification policies that will increase your guys' awareness of what's going on with the system. And those notifications would be initiated out of the NCC. We know that there's a limited amount of notifications that you're getting from AT&T, so we want to be able to improve upon that. The interaction ratings with the NCC, which I'm very happy to see this, the majority of them were excellent. Those that weren't excellent were good or not applicable, because people might not have an interaction with us. So we were very happy to see that. We hope that, your interactions with the NCC are going to be positive. Obviously, if they are not, I would like to hear about it. And my contact information will be on the last slide here. Some of the great comments that we had, folks noted that they were able to call us, give us the pertinent information, and then get off the phone so they could get back to their job, which was the ultimate goal, giving the 911 dispatchers their time back. Somebody said keep the NCC as the primary contact for NCC 911 issues. And we have an outstanding relationship with DSET with an open line of communication. So those were all great comments that we were happy to hear. Some of the suggestions that we received was for us to follow up with the dispatcher who originally called in the trouble. So we will definitely advise our team to try to do that. It is challenging sometimes, as you guys know, we're all 24/7 operations, but we will try to make a point of following up with the original dispatcher, especially for non-critical issues. Database for admins to log into to look at open and closed tickets. Don't have a solution for that at the moment, but we'll talk with Clayton and see what kind of options we might be able to come up with. Even if it's not a database, we might be able to work out some sort of reporting factor. So we'll talk through that and see what solutions are available. And then description of the priority levels for the dispatchers. And NCC can help with that. We can help explain how we're defining a priority. We do have that information from DSET, and that's actually put in our tickets. So we have information that allows us to qualify what kind of priority based on the nature of the trouble that you're reporting to us. So, if you're a PSAP that has, let's say, 2 911 positions, if one is down, that's immediately a high priority ticket. So there's things like that. There's different levels on how many stations or the type of trouble that will cause it to be a priority 1 or priority 2. And then here's our contact information. I'm going to leave this up for just a little bit so that anybody can grab this information. And again, I think Clayton, if you'll confirm, I think we'll send a copy of this slide deck to the attendees so that they have this. But here's our main number. We've got an alternate number there. Our email, if it's not a critical issue, if it's something that if you have questions about, the email is always a good thing. Obviously, if it's critical, we always want you to call. If for some reason, if you're having a problem with getting what you need from the NCC staff, and I hope that's never an issue, but if it is, we do have NCC admins on call 24/7, and you can ask them to please page that out to the admin on call. And in addition, myself, Ernie, and Colleen, we are the 3 admins. There is our email addresses. You can always reach out to us, and we're here to help in any way we can. The other thing I didn't really note on here, but I know the Res Center had gone out. They had added a button onto your 911 stations for the DSET NCC. So that we would, if for some reason, if we're trying to reach you for things and we're not getting through on your main lines, that we have a way to contact the PSAP. Ideally, it is a one-directional at this point in time is what the hope is for. We'd like you guys to continue to call in on the regular mainline phones whenever available. But if for some reason, if none of those are working for you either, you can use that button also. Any questions, comments?
Julie, I'm sorry if you didn't mention it, or if you did mention it, rather. Did you talk briefly about we're going to be sending out another survey in 90 days?
Yes, I did in July.
Okay, sorry.
In
I
July, we'll
apologize.
send out,
I
no
must have missed
problem.
it.
So in July, we'll send out a survey to all the PSAPs. And like I said, just to get that information back, we are constantly trying to improve our processes and, make life as good for, the dispatchers and PSAP directors in the field and DSET administrators as we can. So we do very much appreciate your participation in those.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Any questions for Julie? Thank you very much for the presentation and knowing that we have support out there. Thank you.
You got it. We're happy to be here. Thank you.
I guess we can move on to legislation.
And we have none. No legislation.
Isn't that a good thing sometimes?
No comment.
PSAP grants.
Hello, Mark Gorka with a report on the capital expense grants. In the third quarter of the 22-23 state fiscal year, 2 regional emergency communications centers were approved for a total of 6 individual capital expenditure grants. And that came to a total of $286,338. The funding supports emergency telecommunications through the purchase or replacement of radio switches, KVM, a firewall, routers, gateways, a backup generator, and a simulcast radio system. In total, since the start of the 22-23 state fiscal year, there have been 11 grants awarded for a total of $591,900. The deadline to submit an application for the capital expense grant in this cycle is April 30th. The next cycle will begin July 1st. And that concludes the report.
Are there questions for Mark? April 30th is coming up fast, folks.
Yep.
Anything else, Mark, or do we move on?
That's all.
Thank you. Training.
Right, so Peter is off today, so I'll be reporting out on training, and it's just a quick report. So far this year, we've had 3 telecommunicator classes. Happy to report that all have been held at CSEC. That's our backup PSAP. We were supposed to have the hybrid meeting today. We've trained 50 dispatchers so far, and all have successfully passed the class. And we plan on having 6 more classes this year. And just a quick note on CSEC. So we were really hoping to do a hybrid meeting today, but there was some facility issues with the HVAC system. I think our facilities division may have been a little unprepared with this influx of heat that we had, and the air conditioning isn't working, so the room is probably about 85 degrees right now, and I didn't want to have anybody suffer in there. We also had some issues with our video conferencing system too that we discovered on Wednesday. So apologies for that, and hopefully the next meeting we'll be able to see each other's faces in person. That's it for the training.
Thank you. Public Safety Data Network.
Good morning, everybody. So the Public Safety Data Network Governance Board meeting, I'll be providing the Public Safety Data Network Governance Board meeting update to the Commission. So in February, we had 1 meeting, 2 applications were submitted to the Governance Board. One was submitted by DSET. It was for Brainerd Airport. DSET requested access to the PSDN to provide a circuit between an engineering test facility located at Brainerd Airport to the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Networks core. The circuit will enable CTS engineers the ability to monitor program state radio assets from the testing facility. We had another application submitted by DESPP-IT, and that was for DoIT traffic cameras. DESPP-IT's PSDN request was for connections on the PSDN, allowing DOT traffic access at troops E, F, and I. Providing access to the DOT cameras will enable the Connecticut State Police the ability to monitor for hazardous road conditions, traffic congestions, and accidents. So now I'll provide the Commission with the status report. So to date, 192 PSDN requests submitted to the PSDN Governance Board are in the pre-approval stage or have been approved and are operating on the PSDN. 182 of those requests have been raised, reviewed, and or voted on by the board. All 182 requests have been approved to operate on the PSDN. To date, there are 175 requests operating on the PSDN. There are 7 additional requests awaiting an implementation date or in the process of being implemented, and the remaining requests are in various stages of the connection process. We are supposed to have a meeting on April 19th. The meeting has been canceled, though, due to lack of applications. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but just for the whole board, some of the unique applications that have been approved include either in weather monitoring and tying into the state DEP system. So, John, why don't you just mention a couple of the more unique ones beyond just the school video to police dispatch centers?
So yeah, a lot of them have been for radio backhaul. So the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio System, as Clayton's group goes out there and that expands, and we offer to towns and municipalities, we use the PSDN for radio backhaul. So that's a big application. It's an asset to all the municipalities out there, towns, because it's fully funded. We do have many applications in for computer aided dispatch, sharing of those resources, and also monitoring equipment out there. So remote monitoring of door locks, radio assets, and a lot of those are being done by regional dispatch centers like Tallinn, LCD. So they monitor all the equipment at the fire stations. They can control the door locks to provide people access. I'm trying to think if and
I think that the other one was the air quality monitoring. I think that was up on Mohawk Mountain, if I'm not mistaken, and that was DEEP, and that was pretty unique.
Yes.
So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so that one the board voted on. We had a pretty lengthy discussion on it because they have to be public safety applications, but DEP was requesting to use the fiber network. They have an air quality monitoring station on top of Mohawk Mountain, and they wanted to use that to transmit the data back to their monitoring. So that was a really cool use of the PSDN, we thought, and the board voted on that and approved it as because we thought air quality was public safety.
Because you can have air emergency days where you have
That's
to
absolutely right. It triggers
So-
for asthma, all kinds of warnings, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the only reason I think sometimes there's a lot going on in the background, and I'm not so sure the whole board understands the breadth of this network and the applications. You know, if you build it, they will come, and we're still seeing unique applications come that no one ever envisioned. So thank you. Any questions for John? Thank you. Why don't we move on then to geographic information systems?
So thanks to John for that, and John has been great with managing that PSDN process. So big thanks to him. Unfortunately, Dan Chaya is on vacation too. I'm going to have to stop approving staff time off during commission meetings. So I'm going to be giving the GIS report. And if anybody has any questions about it, I am no GIS expert. So if anybody has any questions, unfortunately, I probably won't be able to answer them right now, but I will write them down. And when Dan gets back, I'll get those to him. So I'm going to run through this report. Unfortunately, it's going to be me reading his talking points. I am sharing the screen so you can see the pictures as well. So anyway, first we're going to talk about GIS metrics. So DSET continues to collect and process street and asset address updates that have been provided by the towns and PSAPs. The map below shows street segments that have been updated and verified since taking over the updating process from TeleAtlas. And any questions, contact our GIS coordinator, Dan Chaya. Moving along here. So DSET has added GIS building and tax parcel center address points for many of Connecticut's municipalities to the NG911 system. This GIS data set is used in conjunction with GIS street center line to further improve call location accuracy. The map below shows address points currently deployed on the NG911 system. A lot of addresses there.
And that looks like Bradley Airport.
Yeah, I think the one in the middle is, let's see, he's got a note over here. I think, yeah, because we recently did update all the parcels at Bradley Airport. Dan worked really hard on that. So it's not just one address. As we all know, Bradley's a pretty large facility. So when they call 911, we can have specific addresses on the map, which is fantastic. All right, next here is DSET continues to improve the geocoding match rate of the alley database using the street center line. As of April 1st, the geocoding match rate is 99.44% of all alley records geocoded. And if I'm moving too fast or if anybody wants me to repeat anything, feel free to chime in. With the addition of the address points, DSET is able to improve the geocoding match rate for the alley database. As of April 1st, geocoding match rate is 99.52% of all alley records geocoded. This is something cool here. So DSET has created PSAP-based 911 call volume maps to complement the 2022 call volume data. The 5 map set consists of total volume, as you'll see the map below, wireline call volume, wireless call volume, V over IP, and text call volume. All 5 maps are available on our website. That's an interesting map there by call volume, something new that the team published. DSET GIS continues to provide updates and research support for the Master Street Asset Address Guide, the MSAG, used in the 911 system. Since 2010, DSET has provided or helped verify approximately 4,131 MSAG update requests. DSET GIS continues to assist other agency divisions with GIS mapping support. Examples include State Police District and Resident State Trooper mapping, a customized version of the 911 Street Centerline GIS dataset for the Connecticut State Police Computer-Aided Dispatch System, and analysis and mapping assistance for the CSP Crimes Analysis Unit. And then DSET continues to work with the state's emergency notification system vendor, Everbridge, to support the GIS portion of the CT alert system, including maintenance of the mapped alley database on a monthly basis and their new resident connection data set. And then the last, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. It's just that, talks about that we're a part of the GIS, the newly formed GIS Advisory Council that was established by state legislature in 2021, and we continue to be a part of that process. And we're really happy that that came about because the state really needed kind of a center point for GIS in the state. So we're part of that, and we're really happy to be part of that. And again, I'll take any questions, and I'll write them down, and I'll get back to you.
Clayton, if you can just go down to the bottom, there's an update on the flight that was there.
Oh, right. So let's see here. I apologize. There's an update. So let's see here. On March 6, 2023, the state of Connecticut signed a contract with Dewberry Engineers to fly and create ortho imagery and LiDAR data assets. The imagery will be leased off, meaning, well, we're going to have a hard time now with the leaves coming out. Will be leaf off. Sorry. 3-inch resolution, 4-band. The LiDAR will, there's a lot of technical terms here. The project is primarily funded by the American Rescue Plan, ARPA funding, along with funding from DESPP and DOT. Both data sets and other residual data sets will be publicly available without license restriction and will support the various missions of the state, regional, and municipal governments. The acquisition flights are currently being flown and should be completed by mid-April.
All right, that was my question, because spring came early. I just didn't know whether they were going to get it in or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was off last week. I meant to talk to Dan about that too as I look out the window and I see the leaves really, really popping now. I don't have an update, but I will talk to Dan and see if that's going to impact the flight at all.
All right. Thank you, Clayton.
You're welcome.
Emergency notification system.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin McManus, and I'm a technical account manager with Everbridge, and I'm assigned to the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection as a full-time asset. Clayton, can you just give me a thumbs up if my screen is showing?
I'll give you a verbal thumbs up. How's that?
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So my report is in reference to the first quarter of our 2023 season. We're happy to say this is the 14th year that Everbridge has been providing mass notification services to the state of Connecticut. Our state of Connecticut project is broken into 3 primary verticals. The first one is our CT alert. That's our mass notification, how we notify the public in a life safety emergency. In addition, we have 2 operational paths. One operational path is for key state agencies. The light version is if they have a seat at the state EOC, they have access to an operational organization to notify staff, employees of emergency callbacks and priority notifications. And then all PSAPs in the state have a similar structure where they can notify their off-duty personnel, recall special teams, and that can even expand to the municipality for building closures. What is not included in those operational organizations is notification to the public. Currently, the way the Connecticut structure is set up, only life safety notifications coming out of CT Alert are available. Underneath the PSAP organizations, there is a blue insert. Towns and municipalities can purchase their own local notification systems if they want to communicate in a non-life safety situation, keep people updated as to road events, special things that are happening in the community. And I do also support that particular project in a technical aspect. Also in Connecticut, Everbridge is available for higher education, colleges, university, and of course, corporations and businesses. I am not assigned. I do not support those. I strictly stay on the emergency management and life safety side of the house. The first project, the CT Alert E911, as I mentioned, this is the life safety notification database. As of today, there are over 450 dispatchers that have access to this mass notification system. One of the keys to this project is almost all dispatchers across the state can send an alert anywhere in the state. If a 911 center is inundated in a volume in a large incident that's going on, they could ask their mutual aid or whoever their neighboring PSAP is to launch a message on their behalf. But each 911 center can notify across the state because emergencies do cross town borders. It just doesn't stop at the town line. The current system has over 4.2 million contact records, and that's a collection of what we call web registration, people who come to the CT Alert website. Anything that you can Google, white and yellow pages, Everbridge's resident connection, and the E911 database. As I mentioned, this is still available even if you use a separate vendor for local notifications. Access is provided to all the 911 centers. 911 centers do have to go through a formal training process. It can be a train the trainer, or I can come up and train individuals as necessary. For the first quarter, fortunately, we've only sent out 12 CT Alert messages across the state. And it's ironic looking at the weather today that in this corner, we sent out warming shelter notifications earlier in the year. But we did unfortunately have a couple prior incidents regarding shooting incidents, bomb threats, and people wandering some city streets, displaying a firearm that the cities decided was important. So we also maintain connectivity to IPAWS, which is the state's emergency management integrated public alert warning system. These are the forced notifications to your cell phone, regardless if you're in our database or not. This is primarily right now used for tornado warnings and Amber Alerts. So we also serve as a gateway for that. And we're happy to say that we've maintained connectivity 100% through the first quarter. As I mentioned, the CT Alert refresher training is available. We're also transitioning dispatchers to what we call an incident message. Instead of having to create an alert from scratch and fill out many fields, we've narrowed this down to what dispatchers like, a fill in the blank form that they can tab through, get the message out to the community, draw that shape on a map, and hit send. After appropriate training, this should be a 60-second task. The longest thing is getting the message crafted and approved within an incident commander's chain of command. We're also helping with best practices, again, making sure that people know what is a life safety message versus what is a routine message. I always start off with the thought, if you would knock on somebody's door at 2 o'clock in the morning to deliver the message, that's life safety, and use of the system would probably be appropriate. We are looking at decommissioning one of our keywords. This was an opt-in campaign. Now that the COVID national emergency is basically over, we're going to look at all these 87,000 people who signed up for COVID CT and encourage them to join the CT Alert program for regular notifications if they have not done so already. So I'm working with the PR folks out of the governor's office to find a way that we can strategically transfer those people over. There's been some talk about social media. We still publish our alerts to both Facebook, Twitter, and the Everbridge mobile app. People on the tech side are probably aware of changes that Twitter has made in terms of external processes and how to push alerts. We're happy to say that our contacts and our engineering team has maintained a good relationship with Twitter, and we have not been shut down. So we will continue to be able to push alerts for communities to all the social media systems. On the operational side, I mentioned before, if you have a seat at the state EOC, you're probably in the system, but that's 34 state agencies. Of all the 911 centers across the state, about 74 of them are taking advantage of that operational organization. And as I mentioned before, we have an Everbridge administration and training portal now. So if somebody wants to go in and do some test messaging and they're afraid that they might actually launch a live broadcast, I do have a portal set up that we can initiate as needed for people to send messages. Some of the projects on the state operational side, and Mark will talk about this a little bit, I think coming up one or two after me, but is the DSET notification project. That's been a huge lift. Julie mentioned it in her NCC presentation, but we want to make sure that we leverage notifications, whether it's a routine maintenance or a system outage, to something more than just that single point of contact email that used to exist. Emergencies happen after hours. I don't watch my email 24/7, but if my work phone does ring, or if I get that Everbridge alert, I know that it's something a higher priority. Working on some projects with motor vehicles, Connecticut Valley Hospital, DAS and DDS about safety, reviewing their safety plans on how Everbridge can be part of that notification. The first 5 minutes of an incident are essential to share basic information of what to do. If a fire alarm goes off, is this an actual fire alarm, evacuate the building, or is this a lockdown and somebody hit the alarm on the way by due to a critical incident? So we're looking at how we can get these messages out to people as quickly as possible. We've also provided access to the executive officers at the troops now, so that the XOs can message their troopers directly for things that are happening. Traditionally, the State Police Message Center and Special Duty Overtime were the only ones that could make notifications to state police troopers. Now we've granted that access to the XOs at each troop. And both on the state side and on the municipal side, we're finding a lot of people right now with a high turnover. They're doing a lot of house cleaning of their staff, reviewing what's in the system, updating those phone numbers, updating those ex-employees, getting them out of the system. For the first quarter, across everything we've done, over 5 million notifications across different types of systems have been sent. Text messaging still remains the most popular, but that also is because we have a few 911 centers that use text messaging as a backup, a notification to their traditionals. So they have their primaries, they have their secondaries through a commercial, a fire or EMS responder system, but then they have a tertiary, they have a backup to the backup. So just over 5 million notifications across the system. My information is available here. I am a 24/7 asset. If I'm not available, the State Police Message Center always has whoever my on-call is, and we hope to continue working forward. The last little thing is we will be at the Connecticut Emergency Management Conference. So if anyone has any in-person questions, please feel free to stop by and say hi to us. Entertain any questions if there are some.
Kevin, John, the incident form, I assume that can be cut and pasted into? So it can go
Yes,
through
it
like
can.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. That was one of the things. So if your internal PIO process approves an alert message, send it to whoever the message originator is. They can drop it right in here. They have actually a chance now to preview what it's going to look like in case there is a formatting issue coming out of Word or coming out of email. They can quickly change it, but absolutely, they can copy and paste right to it.
All right, thanks. I assume so, but I just want to check.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Kevin?
John, before we move on, and Chuck, I see you're teeing up there. I saw Scott pop in, so if we could do the LMR update, and then Chuck, you could do the refresh, that would be great.
All right, Land Mobile Radio.
All right, thanks.
Hey, good morning, Scott here. Welcome all. Apologize for being a little late. It's been a crazy morning. So starting off at the top, one of the goals of our group is to support our PSAPs as a whole. And that's one of the beauty parts of this marriage and this integration of LMR into NG911 is we truly are supporting not only the LMR side that my group has done traditionally, but also now the NG911 side. And to that end, we are starting our training on the deployable 911 laptops towards the end of April, and we're really looking forward to that because it'll really help us support our PSAPs if something should, God forbid, happen. But it's just another layer of redundancy that the state of Connecticut and an investment that the state of Connecticut is making for our PSAPs, and we're really looking forward to that. On the LMR side, we have a lot of activity going on. One of the biggest things that we did towards the beginning of the year was we did our biannual software upgrade. Why this is important is that it keeps us up to date and within currently supported products, whether that be the software. People are used to Windows, and every once in a while you have to update Windows. Well, it's no different on our side with software that we have to do. We also have to update some hardware at times. What makes it a little difficult is it's kind of like flying a plane and having passengers in it, and you got to do all these updates while the plane's in the air, and because the system can't go down. And I will tell you that this was probably the best update that we've done ever. And a lot of that credit goes to our vendor. Motorola Solutions worked with us and has worked with others. Our prior update was not good. We provided them some feedback, and truly they listened and they were willing to take that feedback, and better yet, they took action. And we can't thank them enough for what they did. It truly was a seamless experience. Our engineering folks are starting to receive their new engineering vehicles. We talked about deployments out to the PSAPs. And these are purpose-built vehicles with our job in mind. And we purposely designed around what our job is, whether it's to support a PSAP, whether it's to do deployments out in the field to support folks in the field, or whether it's to support the system. And the vehicles were designed around that, and they're already making a very positive impact. We have a site that went on the air about a week and a half ago up in the Barkhamsted Heartland area that has greatly aided in coverage and enhancing that coverage up in that area. And we anticipate a site in the Danbury area going online towards the beginning of next week, which will solve an enhancement request that we've had for a while down in that area, including the tech schools up and down 84 and down towards the New York state line. And we're greatly looking forward to that. These things have been a long time in coming. They've taken an awful lot of effort on a number of people's parts to coordinate. We've been working with our local partners, whether it be Danbury Hospital, whether it be the town of Heartland, whether it be Deep, whether it be a couple other players that really added to the success of these things. And we're really looking forward to that. We just yesterday got some proposals, some final proposals for our new Avon West site, which is going to help us out on Avon, Canton, that area, as well as the DOT expansion and the DOC project that we've been working on. DOC's in a really bad way with their current state of communications. And we're really looking forward to aiding them and bringing their communications up to date. Some of that system went in when I was working in corrections in the early 1990s, if it gives you an idea of how old this stuff is. By radio standards, it's ancient. We continue an awful lot of work with integration activities with towns like Fairfield, Norwalk, North Branford, Weston, Wilton. These things take significant effort on our part, the vendor's part, and the town's part to make them successful. And when you look at Westport, which was a very successful integration, it really pays dividends in the end. And each one of those is adding sites to the network. They're adding sites to the collective so that everybody on the network is going to benefit from the sites that they add. We are doing, I've talked about this before, we have our ISSI connection with Waterbury and the MTA police. We continue to work with the vendors on both of those. We are working with some other things, and one of the things that I get to do, and one of the highlights of my day, is we have a sister system in Pennsylvania, PA StarNet, and their system and our system are working together to ensure that we both benefit from this. And it's just one of the areas of cooperation that we have between our systems, and it's worked out to be a phenomenal working relationship between our systems, and I look forward to it. About a week and a half ago, I was out in Las Vegas. We spoke on a number of different topics at a large international communications expo, and we brought the expertise of Connecticut. And you start to realize that Connecticut really is on the cutting edge of a number of technologies and the way we've deployed things, and people are really looking forward to us spreading our knowledge and telling people what's going on. you'll hear me talk about a thing called link layer authentication. Link layer authentication can be thought of as two-factor authentication in your computer world. Link layer authentication is like that for the radio world. As technology progresses, security is paramount. We need to make sure that our communications systems are secure, and this prevents people that are not authorized on the network from accessing the network and transmitting. It won't stop them from receiving. That's what encryption is for. This is authentication. This authenticates you to the network. Work with a number of different equipment manufacturers. We beta test equipment pretty much every day. We put it out there. We want to make it work. We have one device that is coming that has been a request of many that will enable a radio to do both P25, like our system is, as well as another format called DMR, which is very popular in the schools. And that way you could, your police officers, your firefighters could have one device and talk on both systems. And we are really looking forward to trying that. That's supposed to be coming in May. And hopefully at our next 911 commission meeting, we'll be able to report out on how that did. I've included some statistics. For the last quarter, we had a little over 27 million push-to-talks on the system. We had about 150 million airtime seconds. Our system averages about 211 push-to-talks per minute. That's average over 20,
Jackie.
you know. Good.
Excuse me.
And then I broke it down and added some trunking statistics. And I also looked at what we do with this ISSI connection. So we have our ISSI connections with currently with Middletown and Wallingford, where we both benefit from being tied to each other's systems. And that only accounts for about 3% of our traffic on our network. So it's really not network impacting to us, but it's a great benefit to our partners, and just one more layer of cooperation that we have between our working relationships. In the last quarter, we added almost 2,000 radios, and we changed aliases on about 1,100. That was done through the NCC, and we could not have done that without the investments in some of the management software that we've made that makes Julie's life a whole lot easier, and Julie's folks' lives a whole lot easier. So with that, be happy to take any questions that folks may have.
Any questions for Scott?
Hey, Scott, it's Robbie.
Hey, how are you?
Regarding the link layer authentication, is there any issue with the ISSI connection?
So that is one of the things that we were working on. That's my co-partner out in Pennsylvania discovered a problem with that, and we are actively working with manufacturers so that folks like yourself that don't have that with your system aren't impacted if we turn it on, and how to exchange that information. So we are actively working on that. We are
Great, thank you.
I have a call in a little bit. So we're trying to get a summit together with all the manufacturers to sit down and talk about how this works, because we talked about it extensively out at IWCE in Las Vegas, and some folks out in the field, particularly Hawaii, brought up things that we weren't even aware of that we need to explore.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Scott.
Great, thank you.
I guess we're moving on then to Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Am I right there?
We're gonna do. Sorry, John. The agenda got a little messed up. We're gonna go to Chuck, and we're gonna do the PSDN refresh and then the PSAP updates. Apologies for the confusion.
All right.
Thank you.
PSDN refresh and PSAP updates, whichever wants to go first.
Thank you, John. Just briefly, my name is Chuck Fuller with DSET, for all of the new members of the governance board. And quickly, just to address what Mr. Assessor said about the intricacies of the PSDN real quick, because my update is basically on the refresh of the PSDN and adds, moves, and changes for the concerned PSAPs. But I briefly want to let new members kind of get a brief understanding, and I'll be quick with it. The PSDN is a large network, which is 150 plus nodes statewide. Earlier, John Massandrelli gave a presentation on the governance, which is our phase 2 PSDN network for municipalities to ride this network statewide for any applications that they may have, like radio and other things that are done locally. But the core of this PSD network is the phase one network, and neither of the two touch. They are separate networks controlled by the state of Connecticut, lit by the state of Connecticut, monitored and managed by the state of Connecticut. My core responsibility is to maintain that for the state of Connecticut and DSET, since DSET is the core sponsor of the PSDN statewide public safety network. I work closely with the best now bits network management and operations folks on any adds, moves, and changes, concerns to PSDN. Also with the PSAPs, if they have anything of concerns on applications that might ride the PSDN. The core applications are 911, which use the PSDN as a transport, radio communications, collect NCIC and such. A lot of this information can be found on the DSET website, and if in future John and Clayton like to do a little bit more overall understanding of this network, I'll be glad to do that in the future. So let me move on to the refresh here. This PSDN network overall requires a refresh of the equipment statewide. This refresh has been underway since 21, but due to COVID and some other concerns, such as equipment needs and just the nationwide availability for routers and switches due to silicone issues and all that, we've been delayed somewhat for about a year. But I'm happy to say that equipment is rolling in, and we're looking to start deployment of the equipment refresh this summer. The core rings, or the first ring to be refreshed, will be ring 7. The PSDN has 7 rings, and again, as I said, the core it would be the main applications. We're going to start that refresh hopefully this summer, and the new network will run side by side with the production network until we're ready to roll all applications over. So this process will take a year or two to complete, but both systems will be running simultaneously. Again, the equipment is started rolling in. We're gearing up for configurations and how we're going to manage deployment. This is what we did the first time around when we rolled out the network back between 2010 and 12. PSDN is a great redundant network, and things should work out well with this transition. That is pretty much it, Clayton, on the PSDN refresh. I'll just move forward with the adds, moves, and changes for events with the PSAPs here. In March, Yukon PD successfully did a forklift of their utility power to the facilities. Their facilities is under renovation, and this forklift of the electrical system and generator system was big because it affected the PSDN and all first responder applications. So there are a lot of hands involved with this. It was successful, and that is completed. Westport PD consolidated with Fairfield County Regional Dispatch. That was successfully completed. That process was underway for about a good 2 years, and we finally got it done. Electric boat was another platform where we had to relocate them to another location. The new fibers and demarcation are up and running. Electric Boat is just working on their layer 3 apparatus and their communications of their radio piece of that. Pending projects coming up. We do a lot of relocations of the PSTN nodes because of municipalities and cities, towns moving or building new public safety entities. And so we have to move the ring nodes as required. Right now we have North Branford, which is pending relocation that is slated for 2023. New Canaan, which is also slated for 2023. Wallingford PD is looking to relocate in 2024. And that's pretty much my update. Thank you. Any questions, concerns?
Any questions for Chuck?
Thank you.
Thanks. Why don't we move on then to Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security?
Hey, John Hartenbaum here, Operations and Logistics Manager for Dennis, filling in for Director Turner. Just got a list of things here that the director's given me. One, the skip plan was finalized and it's available on the DSET website and also the Dennis website. Sorry, Clayton, for stealing your thunder on that. But great work from your team and everybody. Bill Turley, who was our Region 3 coordinator, is now the new state training officer and the new training and exercise manager at Dennis. And we are going to repost the Region 3 coordinator position. The CCM conference is on April 25th. I think the registration closes today. We continue to do cyber assessments conducted by the National Guard for all the towns. They are free cyber assessments through a cyber grant, and we're working on additional funding for that. Cyber Yankee is 5/22 at Camp Net. It's a week-long exercise with the New England states and the military, and we'll also have an exercise for the Cyber Disruption Task Force. Regarding the EAS, we're working still with the FEMA contractor on upgrading the index. I'd like to connect them to the internet so we can more rapidly and readily send out emergency alerts. And lastly, on the Dennis report is just that we've submitted our application. We have congressionally delegated funding for upgrading the comms room at the EOC. So we are working on the plan for that. Short-term and long-term as to what our goal is for that room. So pending any questions, that's all I have for Dennis. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, I guess we move on to FirstNet update.
And John, do you want to just talk? We don't have much in terms of FirstNet, but we do have a quick update on the CRDs. If you want to.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to mute the other call that I have triple booked. So just real quick, here's the CRDs as we go through it. Here's a picture of it as we rolled out before we set it up. Presentation will work. I'm not going to read the whole slide for you. If you want the information, this stuff is all readily available from Rescue 42, which is the one who created the actual CRD. But there's terrestrial backhaul, satellite backhaul. We can set it up with the satellite on or off. But some new things going on with the CRD. We have 6 of them. There's currently 2 at the desk headquarters on the 2nd floor with IT, so they can continue to play around with them. We have 4 currently at Brainerd. But we've come to learn that if you plug 4 of them in, we'll pop the breakers. So we're going to move 2 of them. One is going to get moved over to the EOC, which is where this pickup truck is parked. And the other one is going to go down to Troop I for right now, mainly because they need to stay plugged in on shore power. And then also they have Cradle Point modems inside of them, which is actually what they're putting inside all the state police cars. So DESP IT has been able to maintain these as well and remote into them. So they need to stay on internet connection. So, I've got a couple pictures and I can show you them set up. These things are actually extremely well built, and they weigh 500 pounds. So any vehicle can actually tow them. So a Ford Explorer can tow them, certainly not the state police ones because the pursuit packages don't have trailer hitches. But anything else with a trailer hitch of an SUV, small SUV, should be able to tow them. They're readily available to deploy as needed. We have people trained up in IT and also within DEMIS and can get them out there to support in the event of an emergency, but also for planned events. So one of the things that they said is if we wanted to use the land backhaul and just set it up with the tower site or Wi-Fi, we can support up to 600 FirstNet phones. I think they said per minute. I don't know if I really trust that, but that's what they said. So if you have large events, we can support FirstNet phones only. They do make another version if anybody has contacts with Verizon that has a Verizon attachment to it. Obviously, we can't do it with these because they're provided by AT&T FirstNet, but they have a Verizon version of this. Just another view of it on the trailer hitch. Surprisingly enough, it doesn't wobble that much unless you take a speed bump at a higher rate of speed or hit a pothole. So this time of year, lots of potholes. The image on the left is, these are both screenshots from apps that you utilize with the system. The screenshot on the left, I'm able to monitor, if you're nearby it, I can monitor everything that's operating in the actual CRD, so you don't actually have to go in there. You can see it all remotely, and then I can click on each one specifically, and it'll give me even more data to include how long it expects. Well, you can see rating time for battery. So there's 3 power sources that could be used. There's an internal battery, which lasts for 3 hours. There's a small Honda generator, which has an external transfer tank as well, which you can charge it. And then you can use shore power. So you could probably get, I don't want to do calculations. I'm terrible at math, but you can plug the generator in to charge the battery, turn the generator off, run it for 3 hours, turn the generator back on, charge the battery. And then you also have the external fuel tanks. You never actually have to you can take the generator and the fuel tank out, and you can separate them. You can take them from the CRD if you needed to service them. And then the other one is use the app that they've got to find the satellite to help you figure out where best to point it. So I know they say point it at the southwest sky, but the app will actually show you where the satellite is. It speeds things along. Again, here's the generator and shore power. You can connect different power sources, and there's a picture of the generator and the external fuel tank. We haven't actually set the generators up, but we know how to do so, and we figure the time that we do actually have to set it up and run the generator, I've got 3 hours of battery to figure out how to get the generator up and running before we have any other issues if there's no shore power available. But we can connect it to any other generator that's on site. Here's just an image of the radio antenna and the satellite. The internal metrics of the systems is the bottom left is the front for the satellite, the cradle point, the AT&T radio, and the bottom's just kind of the brains behind the operation. The top left it'll give you your pitch and roll. We also have the whole guy wire system. So if it is windy, obviously you don't want the satellite bouncing around when it's fixated on the satellite. So we have the guy wire. We also have the grounding. So if these are deployed out in the summertime when we have our summer thunderstorms, we can ground it. That way we don't destroy everything inside the system. It is fully waterproof, and they also are temperature controlled. It has its own air conditioner and everything completely built in. So it'll monitor whether or not it feels it's too hot or too cold, and it'll regulate its own temperatures. The top right is the AT&T device, which supposedly is more powerful than Verizon's Thor. I guess AT&T being on FirstNet has increased capabilities, whereas Verizon's doesn't have that capability. So even though Thor is this massive truck, the CRD is a lot more powerful. And that's all I have for this presentation. I will point out that when they were out in Las Vegas, they did see a CRD, these exact equipment that fits into 2 small Pelican cases. So we are exploring procuring those, and then we're also exploring looking at Starlink, just as another option to see what some of the differences are. Any questions on those? That's all I've got. But again, readily available to deploy if anybody wants them. And they will be on site at the CCM if you want to see it.
So the policy for large events, say like the Portland Fair or some of the fair seasons, or what used to be called the Greater Hartford Open Golf Tournament, would those be called into play just to make sure that people know how to use it? Sometimes a practice in a large event might be helpful, or am I off base on this? And that's fine.
So for large events, if you they're cows. We're selling wheels. So
Yeah.
if you had any sort of event that you needed one, we could bring it down there. That I have no issues. We want them out there. We want to utilize them. The last thing I want to do is just keep them stored in the closet and never use them. So if you find that there is a need for one, or even as a backup to such, more than happy to. Again, for direction of how they get deployed, I'm going to work with the guys over at DSET to figure that out, because that's more on the technical aspect. But if they say, hey, we want one of these, or if you request one and they say good to go, then we'll get it down there and set it up, and let the tech guys figure out the connections. I mean, we can turn it on and connect it to the satellite, but if you want anything else special with it, then, I'll let the guys at DSET work with you on that. But yeah, so the golf tournament and everything, they are available. We have 6 of them and can deploy them as requested.
Because actual hands-on use, you learn things that in a real emergency, you know how to deal with. So it's just you may want to mention at the CCM conference, because some people may have something that they could use this for as a drill.
That's our plan. They are ADA compliant, these devices. So I've brought them up to the 3rd floor here at headquarters. That's how they got to the 2nd floor. We put them in the freight elevator. So if you can put a stretcher inside the elevator, you can fit this in the elevator as well.
Exciting stuff. Any questions?
If there's no questions, we did skip Mark Gorka's PSAP contact list update. So if we could go back to Mark, that would be great.
Okay, Mark?
Hello. So in January, we began a quarterly request for PSAPs to verify contact information. On DSET's behalf, Everbridge sent out emails to the contacts on file. The email contained a list of all contacts of the center and requested that the recipient send an email to DSET verifying or updating their contact information. DSET updated the contact list that we share with Everbridge, and we reached out to any contacts that did not respond. We plan to have Everbridge send out the next quarterly request for verifications by the end of April. This time, PSAPs will receive an email from DSET through Everbridge that contains the names and contact information of the chief and director and relevant staff. Each recipient will be able to select one of 2 choices. 1, either no changes needed, or 2, changes needed and will be emailed to DSET. The email will contain a link that automatically sets up an email from the recipient to DSET at ct.gov when selected. And if there's an update, the recipient can click the link, make note of the change, and hit send. We are very pleased with the responses received in the first quarter verifications. It's important to emphasize how critical it is for DSET to have current contact information on file. Having the ability to reach various members of the PSAP allows us to efficiently direct critical information, such as outages and system updates, to appropriate PSAP personnel. It also prevents overloading the chief or director with unnecessary messages or directing messages to invalid addresses due to staff turnover. and participating with Everbridge ensures that they have contact information for their emergency alerts. We sincerely appreciate the continued cooperation of the PSAPs in this matter. And that's it.
Thank you. I guess we could move on to Department of Public Health report.
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. It's only been 3 years, but you know.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, thank you. So Raffaella Calciano, I am the director for the Office of Emergency Medical Services. And as an introduction, the Office of Emergency Medical Services has the statutory authority for the statewide collection of the emergency medical services system data. We interact with within a network of local, regional, statewide, and national stakeholders. And we are also responsible for sharing the information to NEMSIS, which is the National Emergency Medical Services Information System. Our office works with software vendors to standardize submissions and ensure that the correct processing of records. So yearly, we produce a report that meets the statutory requirements for the state of Connecticut, and it is our duty to provide statistics on all EMS calls that are filtered by demographics, time, location. The report obviously reflects what was reported by EMS providers in their patient care reports. So the commission does support the Office of OEMS with a grant funding on a yearly basis. That grant funding provides for our personnel that is responsible for collecting and analyzing the data. It does also helps to cover the cost of our data registry vendor with Image Trend and our GIS license, and which is how we are utilizing the funding that we have been given by the commission, and we are grateful for that funding. And that's all I have, unless people want other specifics or have any questions of me.
So the door is open for questions. Hearing none, thank you for the update. We've got a couple other items, bylaws. Question was raised a couple meetings ago about our bylaws and officers. We did dig up and the existing bylaws, which are very old and undated, so I can't tell you how old they are. And I took the liberty to draft up and forward to you proposed bylaws for consideration. I'm not asking for anything but feedback today. And if we have some feedback on the bylaws, I think they would still need to go through a legal review through attorneys that Clayton will identify for us.
Yeah, our agency legal department would give it a review.
But before we sent it to them, I want to get a little feedback on the proposed bylaws. Again, we're running a little late today, so we don't have a lot of time on this. But a couple of the significant changes were to recognize the new positions that legislation has added, and also add a vice chairperson, which has never been included, which is kind of a flaw to have somebody else kind of available to run a meeting and also to be in a chain of potential future leadership. Made a few tweaks to the order of the agenda, cited certain things like Robert's rules as being a governing document, things that are typically in bylaws. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out to the crowd here today. I know you just got it, but if you're satisfied enough After a brief discussion, I'd like to get into legal. So open the door for, open for discussion.
John,
Hey,
Bob
John
Guthrie.
Robert Brower. John, Fred Dudek here. I did look them over and I don't have any issues with them, so I think you could go forward to legal.
Okay, I see Dan has his hand raised. Dan Sewell.
Yeah.
And Bob Guthrie too.
Article number 7, you still have the Connecticut Council of Small Towns. I assume that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely wrong. Thank you. We'll get that updated to the E911 Commission. Good catch. I think there are others.
Yeah, John, you've got a couple hands raised. You got Bob Guthrie, then Bob Grauer, then Jeff Morrison.
I think Bob Guthrie.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good.
Just a couple questions with Article 4 with the duties of office. So the selection and 2/3 vote of a commission members for a vice chair. Do we need to spell out or create an article for elections and terms, like when the elections would be held? And how long is that term for? 2 or 3 years? That's my question with that. And then to go to the end where you have Article 8 for the amendments, should we suggest that the bylaws be reviewed at a minimum every 5 years? And if you're looking to do that, I'm willing to type up some language over the weekend and send it up to yourself and Clayton.
I think those are all valid issues for getting some draft language. So if you're willing to do that, Bob, thank you. Who else has a hand up?
Bob Grauer has his hand up.
Bob, go ahead.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good.
So I'm new to the commission, but looking at Article 3, Section 1, it doesn't even show that dispatchers aren't represented or the myself or the PSAP managers.
So PSAP managers and
Dispatchers.
And wireless services were not in there.
Just on that, also DCF, and it may be DEMIS and DPH. I can't remember all of the new statutes, but there's some new agencies added that aren't represented there.
John, it's Carrie. I can help you with that list and give you the updated for the recent legislation that included new members on the commission.
Okay. So I think we thank you, Bonnie. That would be helpful if you could.
That was Carrie. That was Carrie.
Carrie, I'm sorry. Not looking at the screen.
I'm here to help.
That would be very helpful. So we have several people volunteering. If we can kind of get those amendments, maybe send them around to the commission for a final kind of quick look and suggestions before we send it off to legal, so we can do legal once. But if we could try to do that, go ahead.
Jeff Morrison had his hand up. I'm not sure if he had a comment or not.
Yeah,
Jeff?
just quickly, I thought the general framework is fine. Coincidentally, I know another agency recently reached out to us inquiring if our commission had bylaws. Our commission actually has in regulation based the basic procedures for the organization, the method of operation, rules of procedure, et cetera. So the Commission on Fire Prevention Controls are actually in regulation.
All right, I don't think we need to do regulation. That would be a 2-year process.
Minimum.
Yeah, these were established back in the 70s and honestly probably have not changed since then.
Yeah. So any ideas from there that should be incorporated to bylaws, I think would be welcome. So we're trying to do a little housekeeping and appreciate all the effort on this. And I think it was mentioned that we should have a term to write in the bylaws that it should be looked at maybe every 5 years. So that'd be helpful. Any other comments on this and the strategy to move forward?
Bob Guthrie and Bob Grauer, I see your hands are still up. Are those legacy hands, or do you have other comments?
Clayton, for me, it must just be the legacy. I am all set.
Okay, all right. Just checking.
All right, it sounds like we have an agreed upon approach that will get some input from the membership. Carrie will help bring in some other data from the state laws, and we'll send it around with a very quick, couple days, please get back to us. And then Clayton will get it off for legal review. And hopefully we'll get that all done, that we can get it out to you in advance of the next meeting and consider adoption or discussion and then possible adoption. Next item, a couple meetings ago, we had talked about a strategic plan. Bob Guthrie did volunteer. Other members are also welcome. And the way I think that this would work is we put together a working group, maybe have one Teams meeting a month for a couple months to try to put together kind of a strategic plan. Some of the items that I thought that we should talk about in strategic plan, and this is just a starting list, not a full list. So your input is more than welcome. Is the PSAP consolidation issue is not going away. And I don't really know this commission's real sense of where we should be, except I understand that there's cost efficiencies of having less. There's maybe professionalism of having less. Beyond that, I think we have very little agreement on the size and call volume that's warranted. But the technology certainly has changed a lot since it was originally set up. So we ought to have a talk about that in a strategic plan. We ought to talk about what the role of the commission is, making sure that we're meeting all our statutory issues, talk about the brief history of the commission, and kind of behind the scenes how the commission has helped in things like statewide GIS. I remember when that first came out and they were looking for towns to kind of help with that, and ultimately the towns working with the commission and state agencies got the GIS process starting, and now we have a GIS officer in the state and managing flyovers, and really a lot of that came back to initial discussions with the 911 system, PSTN and network and broadband and tech advances. I don't think people know how much the commission kind of started, or the agencies working for the commission have gone on that, and kind of what's next, what's the future. We keep hearing about all the new software enhancements and safety enhancements that are coming, what's on the horizon, and what's the role of the commission. Membership, a lot of this membership is driven by statutory issues. Are there gaps, some of which have been mentioned, that we ought to look at? Obviously, we're appointed by other people, so we have to, maintain those statutory provisions, and kind of a time frame of how often this plan should be looked at. I think the commission also, as part of strategic plan, should look at the role in advocating for equipment refreshing, end of life, new technology and funding needs. We've been in a time of rapid technology advancement, and also amazing federal funding available through ARPA and other resources. But I think anyone that's been in local government and state government around knows that there are cycles, and we're kind of coming out of a boom cycle where money was flowing, but we need to be prepared for the times, those lean times where even basic replacement is difficult. So again, what's our plan to deal with that? Major responsibilities ought to be spelled out and make sure that we have a goal for each of them. Our training, our funding, network administration, etc. All those issues should be spelled out on the plan. Our relationships with other agencies, a lot of them are brought together on the through the makeup of the board, but who else are our partners? It's like today, several times we mentioned CCM and the emergency management session. Who are our partners, and how do we create those relationships with state, municipalities, the dispatch agencies, both local and regional, and most importantly, we haven't really detailed our host agency relationship with Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. We have staff on board that does public relations, advertising, and awareness. We've used those methods to promote new resources, but is there more that we should be doing? We heard a lot of new innovation that's coming, that's here, and have not tooted our own horn enough to talk about some of these things. But when you're looking at a period of time with resource scarcity, you need to have a good positive relationship, that people know what the 911 Commission does, and we tend to talk in jargon that people don't know, like PSDN, DSET, all these terms that doesn't mean things to other people. So we have to kind of talk about public relations and kind of what's next. So I'm looking for 3 to 5 volunteers. For those that don't know, my time is limited. I submitted my intent to retire July 1. Whether I can stay on this commission or not is a question that's really up to, I'm willing to, but it's up to the Council of Small Towns, who is my designated appointee, on whether they feel comfortable or not, and that's their call solely. I could still represent them if they feel comfortable, at least for a transitional period of time. But that's their call, and make sure we're not violating any rules or procedures there. But that's why I'm rushing things a little bit, because my time is limited, and we need to clearly have a plan in case that effective July 1, I'm not here, because we don't even have a vice chair. And at some point, I believe the chair appointment, and we'll need to verify this, probably Carrie, I think that's a governor's appointment. If that's the case, we need to get moving on that rapidly if they need to appoint a new chair, because that process usually takes 2 to 3 months. So that's why I'm rushing things, and I'll open the door up for discussions. And if you want to think about it, you can email either Clayton or I. Probably going through Clayton is the easiest. Then there's a record in our staff agency. You can certainly copy me. But I just wanted to make sure people were aware. And these are just some thoughts that I had of things that a strategic plan should have. But the door is really wide open. I guess everyone's microphones went dead.
Well, I'll just chime in. I think it's great, and I'd really like to see the commission take a more active role than us just kind of reading reports every quarter. So fully support it from DSET, and we can provide a staff member, myself or Carrie or somebody, to attend the meetings and and help fill in any information gaps or just help with the process. So completely on board and encouraged.
All right, we'll let people think about it. We'll send a more formal note out to the membership. Or if you have a volunteer within your agency that you can assign, that's okay too. All right. New business, I don't think we have any. So another opportunity for public comment. Hearing none. I guess we can move to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So move, Morissette.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second, Guthrie.
Got Bob Guthrie, I guess. So thank you. I'll enjoy a nice sunny spring day in the 90s. So thank you all. Meeting is adjourned.
All right, thanks, everybody. Take care.
Take care.